المرسلين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah today we're going to start hadith number 34 عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان رواه Muslim. On the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, who said, I heard the Prophet Muhammad or Messenger of Allah say, whosoever of you sees evil, let him change it with his hand. If he's not able to do so, let him change it with their tongue or his tongue. If he's not able to do so, then with his heart. And this is the weakest or slightest of faith reported by Muslim. So one thing I want to mention here, I see this is one of the most important hadith that pertains to all of us, because munkar is something that we see on a worldly level, on a global level, on a community level, on a family level, on an individual level. And today, I don't think I'm going to finish the whole hadith because we might need more time to talk about this hadith. There's a lot of points, inshallah, that we can benefit from this. The first thing I want to mention is a story during the time of a scholar by the name of Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah was walking on the streets with his students. Now, this is the time under the Islamic government, Halaqa, hundreds of years ago. And as they're walking, they see people who are drinking. Now, under Islamic rule, there's a punishment, a had for drinking. So the students of knowledge feel the need to reject munkar, this evil, but Ibn Taymiyyah, he keeps on going. Now, these were soldiers from the Tatar regime. So then they say to Ibn Taymiyyah, their teacher, how come we don't stop them? They're drinking. Why don't we stop them? He says, may Allah have mercy on you, all right? But when they're not drinking, they would kill and rape the Muslim women. So then he said them drinking was actually preventing a greater harm, and stopping this evil will cause a greater harm. So in that case, he said to keep going, not to reject, not to ignore it. But here we see this concept of changing and speaking out, all right, has conditions which we'll go over, inshallah. There's one or two things I want to mention about the narrator of the hadith, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. His actual name is Sa'ad ibn Malik ibn Sinan, and he narrated more than 1,000 hadith. This is, one of the few companions who did so. Another thing I'd like to mention about him is that he's the companion during the Battle of Uhud, who was only 14 years old, and begged the Prophet ﷺ to participate in the battle. All right, not Call of Duty, all right, a video game, but actual battle in real life, where he wants to stand by the Muslim, and his father actually passed away in the battle, and he was known to participate in a lot of future expeditions with the Muslims. So we see here, subhanAllah, one day we can go into more detail about the lives of the companions. But subhanAllah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're able to follow in the footsteps of the righteous. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Now, another thing about this hadith, that we try to create a mindset, a framework of how we should think as Muslims. So this society tells us how to think is that do whatever makes you happy. Allah says, people have taken their own desires as their ilah. Do whatever you want. What makes you happy, do it. That doesn't matter. Islam says that, 1, 2, 3, don't follow any authority. Whatever you feel good about yourself brings you this, do it. Whereas in Islam, it's the opposite. We submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then one thing we learn in this hadith, that we should never normalize evil or become desensitized to it because we see it so much. And this is a dangerous trap. I remember when I was in 7th, 8th grade, we had an Islamic studies class. And the teacher was telling us whether watching the news, is okay or not, because, the people who are dressed are not dressed properly. And I thought about, subhanAllah, that years later, right, people say, what's the big deal? We become slowly, the shaitan, he plays slow traps. Accept this and accept, right? And that's when Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, don't go near fornication. He didn't say don't do it. Don't go there near the steps that will lead to it. So then we have to think, what will lead to it, right? Technology, if it's not necessary. No 10-year-old, right, should have a cell phone with Wi-Fi. There's no reason for it for the most part. If they absolutely need a phone, should have no Wi-Fi access. you're giving them access to the whole world, all right, on this phone, on this Wi-Fi. Even as adults, we're tested with the things we look at. So then when Imam Shafi'i, all right, is not able to memorize, and he goes to his teacher, all right, and he tells him, all right, as he says in a poet, that this knowledge is light, and this light is not given to someone who sinned, and all he did was see the ankle of a woman by accident, and that affected his memorization. So here we see we should never normalize evil. So this sets a mindset that we should always have, all right, our gear up, or we should always have this mindset that we don't accept evil. Now, of course, nowadays a lot of people have different views of evil, and they look at each other as Muslims evil, and that's not the case. This is not what we're trying to imply here, and that is a different discussion. Another thing is of not being passive. One of the things that made us the greatest ummah race for humanity, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. You are the best nation ever raised for humanity, and two of the qualities that were given to become the best nation, all right, you advise what is good, encourage what is good, and forbid what is evil. All right, try to, encourage and forbid and, admonish what is wrong. What does that mean? Is that one of the pillars of a successful family, a successful community, is that you're able to advise one another. A successful friendship, you're able to advise one another. So the thing is, this is something very important components for us to have. Otherwise, we become too formal, too fake, and when we tell the truth to one each other, we get offended really easily. Whether in a marriage, whether in a friendship, whether in a business, we don't like to give nasiha anymore. All right, and of course, you have to have hikmah and wisdom. And also, some people say, no, I should only be concerned about myself. We should also be concerned about ourselves, of course. All right, but we shouldn't lock ourselves and close ourselves out and say, I don't care about anyone else, because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the angel to destroy the village, he came back and said, as a believer, he said, start with him, because he saw wrong around him and did nothing about it. Okay, so again, we have a high responsibility to advise what is good and forbid what is evil. Now, the question then arises, how come the hadith didn't say ma'asiyah? Whoever sees a sin amongst you, stop. It says munkar. So then there's a difference between munkar and sin. All right? Anyone can tell me, what do you think the difference between munkar and sin is? Any guess? Or ma'asiyah? Anyone? All right. So a munkar is any type of evil. And when is someone exempt from a sin? 3 cases. Out of darura, right? Somebody commits a sin out of necessity. All right. Number 2, ignorance. And number 3, the child, has not reached a certain age. So, that person is not considered, but it does not change the fact. Like if a 5-year-old for some reason gets vodka in their hand, starts drinking alcohol, all right, inshallah that doesn't happen, all right, that 5-year-old is not sinning, but is drinking alcohol still evil? Still evil, all right. Baby Shark, I'm not saying is evil, all right, or these shows, right, or these things that they show online, all right, a lot of it is evil. Now, it's not necessarily sin for the child, all right. So evil is evil regardless of your age. Where sin, there's certain, things that, whether it's a darura, necessity, ignorance, or the child is not at a certain age. And the sin depends on the age of the child. So here we see, the first point is that munkar, all right, we speak about it against it at all levels, even if it's not necessarily a sin in a particular case. Number 2, all right, there's a difference of opinion, and for example, there's something called nabith, all right, and in the Hanafi opinion, they used to ferment dates, and it didn't intoxicate you all the way, but only in the Hanafi madhab was it okay. Now, during the time of Imam Ahmad in Kufa, the Khilafah said this is not allowed, this is not permissible, they followed against it. So the scholars then asked the question, or people asked the question, and this is, I guess, only under Islamic rule. If you follow a madhab, for example, that this is halal, but the Islamic state says this is not allowed, then, all right, you are allowed to punish that person. So that means you are not allowed to drink this under Islamic rule, all right? In our time, a simple example would be chewing gum, right, in a school is not allowed, for example, even though technically it's halal, all right, or drinking soda, for example. So then, all right, here it shows that the authority is given the right to make that judgment. Another point here, the hadith is just saying, some people say who should be the one changing the munkar? Who's the one who's given the authority and the right to change the munkar? They say two groups of people, the rulers and the scholars. But now if you go to many people right now, if you go to anyone right now, and I name you 10 scholars that are living today, people are like, who are you talking about? All right? You tell them about Darman, Mr. Beast, LeBron James, they're like, okay, we know, Ronaldo, World Cup, right? But you tell them about like the scholars of today, they'll be confused. Why am I saying that? Because a lot of the scholars have no relation with the people. So part of the scholars that back then, they were actually with the people. All right? It was very organic. Another thing is the rulers. Most people don't respect the rulers today or honor the rulers or respect the authority of the rulers. So then what happens in that case? In this case, whoever has legit authority, you have a bigger responsibility to change the munkar. So for example, somebody is a big person, they say, he has a big influence in the family. He's like the mukhtar of the family. He has an influence. He has a bigger responsibility to command and forbid the evil. All right, command the good and forbid the evil. Somebody who's has an influence in society. So influencers and those who are online, actually they shouldn't seek more popularity, but one of the biggest roles is being creative and how they can forbid evil. So this is something very, very important. That given authority is more of a responsibility. That's why in Islam you should never seek authority. All right, it's not something you want. You should never seek it. It's an amana and a responsibility, and with it comes a lot of accountability. The next thing, who has authority, generally speaking? Parents. All right, parents. So now you go to your house, all right, and your son or daughter, all right, let's say they have a CD or a DVD or whatever it is, that has something that's not permissible. Is the father allowed to break the DVD and change it the munkar with his hand? Yes or no? Yes. All right. Now later on, we're going to talk about different scenarios. You have to be aware of the Western law here and cognitive of the law here, so you don't get in trouble also. All right. But some people I remember there's a fellow, he broke like 4 PS4s. All right. He's like, son of, I said 3, he broke 4. So this scholar say, no, don't break the whole thing. Erase the file, break the USB. But don't get so excited, like I'm just gonna break everything, right? All right. So you break only the thing that needs to be, or remove the thing that needs to be removed. All right. So the thing is, the parents have authority in the house. Things that are being watched. Listen, the culture. All right. Whether it be in a house, whether it's doing salah, whether it's a janazah, whether all these different things. All right. The parents are responsible, and they're the authority in the house, and they'll be asked about it. So parents have a certain type of authority. We live in a time where we have many kids go to Muslim schools, all right, and we put the responsibility on the community, but the parents themselves will bring their kids and they tell their kids to go pray, but they don't pray. Right? This is a problem, all right? So we cannot put the burden of our families on other people. This is our responsibility. We cannot put the burden of our kids on lawmakers and school boards because they will not, or do not want especially in public schools, do not want the best interests of your kid when it comes to being a Muslim. All right, no politician is thinking, how can I make sure Muslim kids stay Muslim? They don't care. All right, so we have to make sure we have a big responsibility. Things that money can't buy. All right, and that's why many mothers and fathers will come and say, I rather, their kids got the best degrees and the best jobs. They say, I'd rather go back to a village and back home and live off of water and tea and bread so my kids can stay Muslim. They thought they got the American dream. It became an American nightmare. They can't sleep at night. Allah gave them everything they asked for. They wanted this dunya. Allah gave it to them, and they lost it. All right, they lost the akhirah. For what reason? When fathers come and say, "What should I do with my son?" It's very, very, sad. And it's a reality. It's like I can't have him in the house anymore because he's a danger to everyone in the house. But if I put him on the street, where is he going to do? SubhanAllah. And you get this many times. And that's why, brothers and sisters, we have to be extra careful of the things that we allow to be watched and that access. That's why no access to internet should ever be, or Wi-Fi or laptop or tablet should be ever in somebody's room by themselves. It should always be in a public area. Nobody should eat. If your kids have phones, they should turn it off before you sleep. They should not be given that shaitan is there. He's waiting. Also, sleepovers should never happen. And there's many things we can give examples. That's not the point of the hadith or the halaqa today. And one thing I will mention that has destroyed, and there's a big epidemic of it, is drugs. Drugs destroys the mind. All right, hookah lounges are so packed right now. All right, and they're gateways for many of them to do other things, and it destroys the mind. It starts with Adderall. It starts with hashish. It starts with these different things. See, what's the big deal? SubhanAllah. All right. The only way you can help somebody sometimes if they want help. So ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and protect our families in this sin. So that's the point here. Parents have authority. The next one, the authority of the husband over the wife. A lot of people don't like to say that. All right. But with this authority comes responsibility, meaning the husband is responsible more than the wife on the day of judgment about the salah. Everyone performing salah. You see families making sure our kids can't be late to school. But more important, they can't be late for Fajr. All right. Same thing with, he's responsible for his daughters and his family, wife wearing hijab or not wearing hijab. He's responsible for how they leave the house. That is the responsibility of the husband. He has a big responsibility, what goes and comes inside the house. So here with authority comes a lot of responsibility and accountability. All right. And that's why the head of the house, you have, it's very, very important that we don't cater to the feelings, all right, of those or even our kids when it comes to disobeying Allah. Because if your child is running towards a fire in the house, all right, your child doesn't know the fire burns. You're going to save their life. They're not going to say thank you. They're like, you're so mean. You don't let me have fun. But you don't care about the feelings, because if you listen to their feelings, they're going to get burned. And the same thing, you know what? If you let them do whatever they want to do, they're going to get burned in a different way. So so here, Islam does not care about your feelings. Remember that. All right? Islam is objective, cares about the well-being, all right, of society and also the well-being of yourself and your stand with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the next point, all right, is we have to be aware of the trick of shaitan. What does shaitan say? All of us do evil. You're a munafiq. How can you tell people not to do evil? Or how can you tell others not committing sin? Shaitan will use the ayah in the Quran. It says, about those that you tell others to do something, but you do the opposite. You're a munafiq. He'll use the hadith of the person on the day of judgment. His private parts will be dragged, and he'll be asked why you're carrying your own private parts. He said that I used to command people to do good, but I didn't do it myself. So the shaitan will even try to use hadith and ayat to convince you that you shouldn't convince others and tell others to do this. Now, what is the wrong thing that this person did? It wasn't the advice that he did was wrong. It was that he purposely did not do what he told others to do. So may Allah protect us from nifaq. Now, one thing I want to say about this. Ibn Qayyim was asked a question. Is somebody able to do all good? What is the answer to that? No. Is somebody able to avoid all evil? It's not possible. All right? So then here, what does it say? Is that if you're going to advise somebody to do tahajjud, but you don't do tahajjud yourself, then talk about it as somebody else is doing it, all right, and make the need that you want to do it. But don't do it. You don't even have an intention, all right. Say for example, you tell people to come to Fajr, but you don't even care about coming to Fajr. That's not right. All right, you tell people to avoid the sin because you yourself are trying your best to avoid it, and you have the intention. But if you're intending to commit that sin afterwards, that's a problem. It's like, for example, we tell everyone, nobody sell alcohol, and they're like, yo, after Salah, meet me at my gas station, all right? We got to sell lotto, inshallah. You can't even say inshallah about that. But the idea is, all right, we cannot intentionally do that wrong. So that's the big issue. But then the question that arises, what if a father sees his own son drinking, and he has a son, he has a problem drinking himself? Should he advise his son, yes or no? Still he should. Now, will the son say, Baba, right? And kids recognize, their parents, flaws. SubhanAllah, as an imam, we see a lot of things. So one time, a father came to complain about his son, or I think it was, and he said, he's doing drugs, watching this, and 1, 2, 3. He said, Baba, he's like, you do worse than drugs. You sell alcohol. All right. You talk about me watching stuff. You sell these now. You talk about me gambling. You sell lotto. What do you expect your son to come out when you do all of these things? What do you expect? Right? When you come to this land, to this country, and you put our kids in the society, in schools and systems where they have no connection to Allah, they don't even mention the Allah in the curriculum. What do you expect? If you don't, so we have to make a lot of sacrifice and never let the shaitan deceive you that if I don't do 1, 2, 3, I won't make money. That's a deception of the shaitan. So anyways, but the father, he's trying to make sure, he says, oh son, learn from my mistake. Be better than I am. Don't drink that. But you have to be honest with him. But if you're going screaming and hey, that's not how it works. You have to be sincere. Say, I failed. I am trying. I want you to be better than I am. They see the effort in your change, saying that, hey, as a father, you're not perfect. All right, acknowledge them. Now the thing is, I want to mention 4 different obligations that should not prevent oneself from ordering the good and forbidding the evil. Number 1, the first obligation, we should always order ourselves to do good. Meaning, right now you're talking to yourself. Everyone's having an internal conversation. You should tell yourself, I need to make this fear. I need to obey my parents. I need to what? We should always order ourselves to do good. SubhanAllah, think about that for a moment. Some people are always ordering themselves to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do whatever their desire wants them to do. Whereas here we want to train your body. All right, you know what? I'm training, I'm telling myself to be patient through the halaqa. All right, to be kind to others, whatever it may be. Number 2, stop yourself from harm. Stop yourself from harming yourself by disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So make that intention also. That Allah help me, all right, in avoiding sin. And part of when we say Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'een, we seek Allah's help and isti'ana. We know that we only ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we ask Allah to remove 2 things, riya and kibr, showing off and arrogance. May Allah protect us from those 2 things. Number 3, to stop others from harm. All right, that Allah uses us to stop others from harm. And number 4 is to encourage others to do good. So these are 4 obligations that we should always think about. If you're weak in number 1, it doesn't mean you should stop doing the other 3. If you're not able to order yourself with good, all right, you should start to do the 4 as much as we can as possible. All right, so here again, the 4 obligations: order yourself to do good, stop yourself from harm. Number 3, stop others from harm, and encourage others to do good. And that's why when you sit in a gathering and there's gossip and backbiting and no remembrance of Allah, remove yourself from that gathering, as there's no angels in that gathering. All right, it's very, very important. And our houses should be gatherings where there is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the objective of the hadith and the objective of the sharia, and we're talking about the first act of the hadith, says if you see harm, change it with your hand. Is the objective to change it with the evil with hand, or is the objective of the hadith to remove evil? To remove evil. All right, so even if it's not done with the hand, as we'll see, the objective is to remove the evil. All right, so the thing is, there's 3 things I want to mention about this when it comes to the objective. Number 1, the goal is not to use the hands, but rather to remove evil. So, when we get mad sometimes, like, the objective is not to scream at your kids. People think if you don't scream, it's not good. You do the right thing. It's incomplete. All right, no, you don't have to scream. All right, you can say, hey, can you remove this? Actually might work. All right. Number 2, removing evil is a communal obligation. Now in Islam we have fard kifaya and fard ayn. Fard ayn is an individual obligation, like salah, siyam, and so forth. Communal is fard kifaya. That means that if a janazah happens, the community is responsible for the burial of that person. Otherwise, everyone's in sin. It's a same thing with establishing an Islamic state. Is a fard kifaya, that we should have the intent of establishing Islam as a way of life. All right. So removing evil is a communal obligation. So then we have to come as a community. What are the main evils in our community? What are the things we have to work on? What are the things that are dividing us? What is nationalism dividing our community? Arab, non-Arab, Pakistani, Bengali, Indian, South Asian. All right? Is this thing, these flags, helping us as an ummah or dividing us as an ummah? What should we stand for? All right, what is our identity? So the thing is, we have to see what is the evil about this. All right. Number 3, when it comes to the hand, all right, changing evil and forbidding evil, all right, are 2 different things. So the main concept, the general concept, is to forbid evil. Now changing it is a different level. All right, that's a different concept. Now, for example, let's say in our community we become very strong. Now in Utah, in certain parts where there's a lot of Mormons, they don't allow them to have gas stations where they sell alcohol. Now, what does the shaitan do? He says, look, don't forbid evil. You don't have immigration papers. You may get made fun of. People will call you names. It's all from shaitan. Allah is your protector. All right, Allah is the one who's going to give you your paperwork or not. Allah is the one who's going to give you sustenance. And that's why if you work for someone and they don't want to pay properly, don't enslave yourself, all right, thinking that you have no other option. Allah has an option for you. You have to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, all right, we have to be creative in how we stop evil. We have to not be okay. So we should say in our masjid, we should not have gas stations within like a mile of any masjid. We should have them. They say in Tampa, I know this a couple of years ago, there's around 100 to 150 gas stations owned by Muslims. 100 to 150 gas stations owned by. Now imagine if 150 Muslims got together and said, we're no longer going to change or sell alcohol. Imagine how much Tampa will change. That's by us Muslims not selling alcohol. And that's so important. And supporting each other in that. SubhanAllah. Right? This will make a big difference. So the thing is, right? I'm not saying to anyone go to gas station start breaking alcohol bottles and all that. So that's not the idea. But the idea is we have to think high of that Allah will give us, right? إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغير ما بأنفسهم. That Allah will not change people until we make the intent and feel the need to make a change. So this is one example. Imagine how many examples we have. Because the gas station does not only involve the selling. People hang out around there. People come there. So imagine in gas stations you have Qur'ans, translations. You have a TV screen, right, of about Islam being played the whole time. So everyone's exposed to Islam as they walk in. They see, so imagine the influence that you'll have by this changing that. One of my friends, here has the barber, all right? If you go to even a lot of Muslim barbers, even also, they're always playing music, all right? Why do you have to play music in your barber? Like, what is the mindset behind it? He plays, this is one barbershop, they play actual videos of lectures. And subhanAllah, how many discussions about Islam does it spark? We have to change the norm. We can't follow the sets of society because these standards they set are destructing society. All right. So again, the objective of the Sharia is to remove the evil. So one example they give here. Again, if you see somebody like your own direct family son or daughter and have hashish, you're allowed to throw it away. The Prophet ﷺ, when he did Mecca, the conquest of Mecca, he commanded Ali to destroy the idols. Ibrahim alayhi salam destroyed the idols that his father owned. So then there was a question during the time of Imam Ahmad. If somebody destroys something, all right, because somebody during the time of Imam Ahmad his son destroyed something his mother had, that was not permissible at that time. So they asked Imam Ahmad, does he have to pay her back? All right. He said, no, you don't have to pay her back. All right, depending on the situation. But again, here you have to be aware of the law, all right, because they can file a police report, and then you probably have to pay for it, all right. So you don't want to take chances, and that's not the idea because they can get more access to it, all right. Sometimes we attack the symptom, not the cause. But here, just the idea is sometimes, especially when they're younger, and you have more authority. Sometimes you just have to get rid of things, all right, and don't discuss it. And sometimes without them knowing, it's better to get rid of certain things and images and so forth. Now, what are the conditions that need to be met to change things with the hand? There's 5 conditions. When something has conditions, that means, what does that mean? That changing the evil with the hand is not meant for everyone. All right, it's not meant for everyone. You have people who are specialized to do certain things. You have people who could be in mental health, people who are specialized to do and fulfill certain things. One of the first conditions about making change or forbidding evil is your intention needs to be pure. If you dislike that person, right? Even what they say when you're giving da'wah, you have to love humanity and care about humanity. Care about humanity, because if you don't, then you're not ready to give da'wah. If you're not ready to have a pure intention, that means you're not ready to change that evil. You have to have a pure intention. Number 2, you have to have enough knowledge of the Sharia to assess the level of the evil, because your evil cannot bring another evil. All right. So, for example, all right, somebody, and my luck, somebody cheats on somebody's spouse. Somebody's not going to beat up that guy. If this is going to cause you to go to jail, or prison, or dead, then you should stop. Don't do it. It's causing more evil now. Now you're deprived of your kids and family and all this. All right. So if the evil you're stopping is going to cause you more evil, no, don't do it. And that's why, again, you have to be able to understand the Sharia, understand the law, all right, and understand the circumstance. You're not causing more evil or harm to yourself. Number 3, all right, you have to make sure that evil is there. Not based on gossip or rumors. That's why Allah says, "When ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyan." If somebody brings you information, verify the information. SubhanAllah, how much fitna is caused because of false information, because of rumors. There's a story they tell of a husband and a wife, and the husband went to jail overseas for political reasons. So when he came out after 4 or 5 years, the baby was born when he was in prison. So now they're doing a party, and the child says to the father, who's very excited, the child is not excited at all. He says, "You're not my dad." Right now, his dad looks completely different than when he went to prison. So dad is very upset. He's very bothered. All right. He's like, there's a different Bible. All right. So the wife is so happy. She said, "You're going to take me to Hajj after all these different things." As they get home, They're on the second floor. The father gets so upset, he pushes his wife. She gets paralyzed. All right, she falls down the stairs, gets paralyzed. The father, then the son comes and shows his dad the picture of him, but he looked completely different. So it was the same person. All right. Now it's too late to say sorry. All right. You know, Justin Bieber says it's too late to say sorry. You know, Justin Bieber used to say that. All right. He used to say a lot of times sorry. But anyways, all right. So the idea is, all right, in this particular case, all right, he acted based upon the evil was not even certain, and it destroyed his life forever. All right. So again, when you know that has to, so even if somebody says something about your son or daughter, verify that information. All right. And a lot of times, don't act right away. Have wisdom. Number 4, do not go beyond what is permissible. All right. And I use this example. All right. Don't destroy the whole computer. Erase the file. All right. So that's something that we should think about. Or, for example, remove the CD from the car. Don't destroy the whole car. All right. Tell us the Common in Hillsborough River. All right. Number 5, remove the evil if you can. If you cannot, then seek help. All right. So if you're getting robbed and you know you're not able to do it, you want a bag of chips. Yo, this have a good night. Like, all right. Don't go fight. All right. Or call for help. All right. So and now the thing is, don't go to the other extreme. You know, one person was mentioning, for example, there were 4 people beating up a drunk person. So people, instead of calling for help, what do? Start recording it. Let's put it on online. That's also not right. All right. You know, it's not entertainment to see others get beat up. So if you're not gonna able, that's what Allah says. What also one of the characteristics of the believers is they stand for truth. But if you're not able to do it yourself, seek help. All right. In this country, seek authority, whatever it is, to get help. But also, don't record the evil. Don't support it. Don't laugh at it. Don't recognize it. These are something also very, very important. All right. Now, there's 2 conditions where you're able not to change evil that are valid. Again, if you're physically not able to do so, and it's also going to cause you a lot of physical harm. All right, then you should not do it. Number 2, all right, your knowledge, you don't have enough knowledge or spirituality to be able, or spiritual knowledge to change the wrong or evil. All right. We have 5 more minutes. Can we go, inshallah? We're good? What's that? Okay. I wanted to end with 8 different case scenarios about changing with the hand. 8 different case scenarios. Number 1, if you change something with the hand, if you're able to, don't do it if it will lead to greater evil. We give the example of Ibn Taymiyyah with the soldiers, but Ibn Qayyim gives another example. If you went to like a place where people are gambling, all right, and these people are known that if they're not gambling, they're going to be doing other things that are worse, looting and harming. So it says if you don't have an alternative, then at that moment, don't stop them from gambling. All right? Because when we're not giving an alternative, it can create a greater evil. What does this tell us? We have to provide alternatives. All right? We can't tell our kids haram, haram, haram. We have to have the alternative. Islam is a great alternative. So, for example, on Eid, if you give your kids a $150 gift and a hoverboard, whatever they want, right, for Eid, they're not even going to think about their birthday or other holiday because they're so happy with Eid. All right, we're celebrating Eid so much as a community. So then you don't have to say the other things that haram or not allowed, whatever. Why? Because you're given Islamic alternative. All right. So here again, if the harm is changing is going to cause more harm, then that's why you need somebody with knowledge to be able to decide that. All right. Number 2. Now they say if you can stop the evil with your hand, it'll cause the equal evil. But that's very rare. All right. Imam Ghazali and Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, they say this is very rare that happens. Either lesser evil or more evil. All right. SubhanAllah, I used to think about this for a moment. Let's say you're driving 15 people in a car, and they're all blasting music and so forth. All right. And somebody will say, she put Quran, but we ourselves don't listen to Quran for 15 hours on a road trip. We can't expect our kids to do don't tell people to do things you don't do. All right. Let's be fair. But then you realize if they're not doing this, they may be doing a lot of other things. All right. I'm not saying you should, just let them listen to whatever. But we always have to think about the alternatives. All right. You always have to think about the alternatives. If you're going to tell your kids, hey, you can't play video games, what is the alternative for the video games, right? It should be sports, a physical activity, a social activity, all right? So, for example, we have, a breakfast. So in the morning, you know what? If I'm going to come to the breakfast, that means I have to sleep early. If I'm sleeping early, Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا. It's going to help you protect, the night is a protective garment from committing sin. Most sins are committed when? At night. Nobody says, hey, let's meet up, a girl and guy, let's meet up at Fajr and go on a date. They don't do that. Nobody says, let's drink alcohol at Fajr. Let's go gamble at Fajr. It's at night. All right? So Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا. Allah made the night a protective garment, so it protects you from sin. That's why people say, man, sleeping is not cool. I mean, at least it prevents you from disobeying Allah. Number 3, if you do not have knowledge if this is truly evil, you should not do anything. All right? Having little knowledge can cause a lot of harm. Somebody calls me, and my dad is my dad is giving kids candy on when they knock on the door on Halloween. Should I just go find my dad? I'm like, take it easy. All right? You're causing more harm now. You don't just read a hadith and super you want to become super bid'ah police. Take it easy. All right. Number 2, all right. People disagree about say different topics, whether it's the wallet and the beard and the ankle, and I'm gonna stop the evil. Calm down. All right. Just take it easy, bro. Take a deep breath. All right. There's many scholar discussions and they never address it like that. All right. A lot of times what we do is we think we're changing evil, we're causing more evil. And the actual evil caused by the people who are causing evil and massacring people around the world, we say, oh no, we can't say anything about the rulers. All right. We have to not, that's a red line. But hey, everyone else is attacked them. So we have to be careful and prioritize and decide what's evil. That's why we always have to have mentors and not act based upon emotion. So one time, a lady came to the masjid for the first time. She wasn't properly dressed. We have so many haram police. All right. Sometimes they'll never come back to the masjid again. But somehow the imam understood the situation. And then later on, she jumped up and she actually became Muslim. So then we have to understand the situation, the circumstance of how to stop evil. Another example that can cause more evil or more harm. At USF a couple years ago, they had 2 people who stopped drinking vodka, and because they stopped it without medication and true help, they had seizures and they died. So if somebody comes to the imam and says, hey, I'm smoking heroin, I need to stop, there's some advice to stop, but then some people has to be gradual. But if you tell them to stop right away, not knowing the medical effects, you're causing more harm. So you have to understand the medical aspect, all right? So again, don't just have passion. It's not enough. You have to have knowledge. Sometimes you need scientific knowledge of the situation before stopping the evil. Now, let's say, for example, if you're going to stop somebody from evil, and if you stop them, they're going to curse at you, all right? So Sam says, it's okay. If they verbally abuse you, it's okay. Accept it, all right? Even though it's not easy. Now, they say sticks and bones may hurt, my bones, but words never hurt. But actually, sticks and bones probably hurt less than words. All right. But if the only harm that's going to happen, you're sure, is verbal abuse, then you know what? At that moment, and the odds of Sharia is not a valid reason for you not to prevent the evil from happening. Number 5, we have the ability to act, but believes that he will not be able to remove the evil. All right. You believe you're going to get hurt, then stay away. Something in your neighborhood is happening. All right. Call for help and so forth. Don't put yourself in a position of danger. If there's no fear of danger, then no fear of changing the evil, then change the evil. Okay? For example, if you're going to a place where, let's say you're playing sports together, like say basketball, soccer, badminton, and some people think they have 6-packs, take off their shirts. All right? It's like only a 1-pack. People go to the gym like, look at me. I'm like, what is this? All right? Anyways, you're scaring people away. So anyways, all right, you should advise them, hey, the aura, right? For the man, you should cover yourself. All right. So then if they get mad at you, it's okay. But you should advise them, all right, of course with wisdom, but you should not let it be. Because if you don't stop it, it's going to continue. People don't put their shoes on the rug, or people urinate, whatever it is, you should always be, all right, trying to see that, I want to stop this evil. Number 7, you believe that changing this evil with your hand is not going to do anything, it's not going to make any difference, all right? Then do the job of educating the people is speaking out against them, all right? And speaking out against them. So, for example, that no matter how much of this thing you remove, that people are going to always access it. So then speak against it, educate against it. That probably be more benefit. And number 8, so somebody can remove evil, knowing that a known harm will come to this person. So the harm needs to be assessed, all right? So you cannot intentionally know that if you're going to stop and be involved in solving this evil, intentionally that this is going to harm you in a way where it can kill you, you shouldn't do that. But let's say, for example, you didn't know it was going to kill you. Then you die shaheed. All right? You were advising somebody, you were doing something and somebody just reacts a certain way. You didn't know that was going to happen. You die shaheed. So there's a high regard in stopping evil. All right? So this is all regards. We talked about changing evil with your hand, and the idea of evil. We should have the mindset. We should not accept evil. So in our minds, we should think about what are the things me as an individual I can remove with my hands. Whether it's an app, whether it's things on our computers, whether it's things on our phones, our TVs, our cars, whatever. What are the things I can actually remove? All right. And next week, or inshallah, after we come back from Umrah, we'll talk about the tongue. All right, and also what is the weakest of iman? Inshallah. Any questions or comments?